Hello, I'm Pat from icareimove, and today I'm going to be interviewing Helen. So Helen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. I am Helen Tite. I'm 51 and fabulous, and only diagnosed as a dyslexic creature in my 20s. So we're going to talk about being neurodivergent and what that looks like. And for me, I run a business. So Pat is going to interview me around the highs and lows of using my crazy brain.
So first of all, we're going to ask you, so Helen, what kind of challenges did you have when you were in education?
Okay, well, could do better. That's the thing that is my overriding banner right the way through education. So it was constantly, you could do better. And I would be working as hard as I possibly could.
Yeah.
But it just wouldn't come out of my fingertips the way you do in conventional learning. So could do better, very frustrating. And a simple response to a question would not be so cut and dry for me. I would go in different directions. I went off into university, and I'll give you an example. We were asked to do a poster around green and being and the environment. I didn't do a poster. I fully went all out and produced a fashion show. I did the choreography, the planning, the music. That's the way my brain operates.
Yeah.
So school was always challenging because people didn't understand dyslexia or ADHD or any sort of thinking differently. So it was really hard to fit in. So I did stand out a lot.
So do you think you would have fared better with the right support?
Oh, 100%. Just when people start to understand that you think differently or how you speak doesn't necessarily come out your fingertips the same way. So you can be verbalize, great communication, but the blocker to, in conventional land, you have to write and respond to essays and things. So having people on board that get you and understand what you actually mean, particularly when it comes to the written word, for me, which is my biggest barrier, I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful that is for me, having the right people on my side.
Yeah. So that moves us nicely on to your team. So how does your team help you in the workplace to cope with your neurodiversity?
Well, keeping it simple, the first thing is about barriers. The girls in my team, in my company, talk about grammarizing and glamorizing. So sometimes they just make me just like write it down, just write, and then they will convert that or spell check it because it looks right to me, but not necessarily it will come across the wrong way to somebody else. So the team will actually sort of just like to support me so I come across well, because the bias is deep.
It is, yeah.
And if you can't spell, you can't run a business.
Yeah.
You still get that type of naff response to it out there.
But it's more than that as well, isn't it? Some of your behaviours, for example. Do you want to talk about some of your behaviours that we recognise now? And that's only been in the last year or so, I suppose, isn't it?
There's a bit of drifting. So when it comes to my behaviours, apparently, we will be deep into a conversation, and the girls will be talking to me, and I will literally drift. I didn't know I did this. So in the old days, they would be like, hello, back in the room. But all it is, my brain is just moving on the sentences and moving on the solutions. So then I sort of jump back into the conversation, unaware that they've paused. And then I can fill the spaces, and then I've actually figured out how we can do the next bit, if you like. I think that's one of many things. Deep focus. So, my attention, when I go into attention mode, forget to drink, forget to eat. So they and I can't break my concentration. So if I'm in hyper focus mode, I can't. They support me in that as well. So there's lots of little things, but they just seem to know, and I'm really grateful. I think that's the other thing. I can't even begin to say how wonderful it is being supported by my team.
Yeah, and I think as a team we've moved on really well, haven't we? Because we've recognised that, and we know that to support you better in your job, we need to be that supportive element of the business so that you can do the work that suits you and that you can do properly. And in those moments of and sometimes it's procrastination because you just can't get your head around it, and you need time to work it through. It is a big one. So the
procrastination bit is a real problem because they think I'm not working on it, but in my head I figured it all out. But it's almost like we've got to kind of almost backtrack to be able to unravel the chaos. To formalise it, so it feels like we're up against deadlines, and then I'm not doing my work, but in my head I've already figured it out, and then it just flows out of me, and that seems to work. Quite a lot. For me, it does. For my team, it doesn't. They get quite stressed about the time management around it.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to say. At first, we would get quite stressed because we were like, oh my goodness, we're not going to get it done. But now we know that it is going on in your head, and you really need to have that time to focus on it and get everything in a place. And then it comes together and you're like, bam, there it is. And it's like, we know you're going to do it now. Whereas before it was quite stressful, and it's learning those techniques and those support systems that you need. So how does it feel as a director? So what kind of strategies and how does it feel as a director of a business then, coping with your neurodiversity and the problems, issues that you face?
I think there's, it's really difficult to put it all into short responses. There's certainly a piece around leadership. So it enables me to lead differently and lead from wherever you need me to be. So the way, traditional way of leading a business tends to look different to where I'm required. It enables me often to be bold and brave because I can't imagine what it's like to be in a non-neurodiverse brain. So this is how I function, so this is how it is. And it enables me to think completely differently and outside the box. So when my team are putting together a project, for example, and they put it in front of me, it's not a good or a bad, it's actually I'll come at it from a different direction, and for that reason it's really nice because it is literally having like linear black and white and then multicolored woven into it, and for that reason again it makes for more of a wholesome business. I can't imagine what it'd all be like if we were all like that, dyslexic and neurodivergent. So I'm very grateful to have a real mix of behaviour types within the organisation.
Thank you. And the final one is, why do you think that training in neurodiversity and disability in the workplace and just in general is such an important thing to have in businesses? And like, how would it help that team to grow and the team support?
Oh my God, this is totally my favourite thing because not one size fits all in any kind of workplace, and it is so important to find people who are right for purpose and actually when you get the best out of them. So never fear somebody who is on that spectrum because they've got amazing talent and often high intelligence, and you can get some real magic out of people. So we're all so different as people, and having such diversity really makes for really solid growth in businesses and great foundations. There's a piece here around everyone has a chance in life to do something great. Just because they can't spell doesn't make them a bad person or not good enough to do the job. Spelling isn't like really a big deal these days. So the more you understand about working with somebody who is on the spectrum, whether it is Asperger's or ADHD or dyslexia, dyspraxia, just go with it because you'll be amazed at what talent is there once that trust is in place and you're off, and you'll never ever regret it, not for a second.
And just making sure that everybody feels part of that team, that sense of purpose and that sense of belonging is really integral, isn't it, to the whole team moving on?
Oh, absolutely. Just anything, the more we know about people who are neurodivergent, I just think it's just making us more well-rounded as a business, and it just really sparks great creativity and great conversation as well.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Sure.